Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome to My Turn to Talk. I am Solid Blue Sister, and today is Tuesday, April the 14th, 2026. Okay, y'all. My Turn to Talk. I like to delve into different subjects and your feelings, things that may trigger you. So if you're going to get triggered, you don't want to be on this show. But you know, you hear the phrase a lot where people say, you should be the bigger person. You should be the bigger person. Oh, you should be the bigger person. You should be the bigger person this. You should be the bigger person in that. But being the bigger person does not mean that you should stay silent. It does not mean that you should allow people to run over you. Being the bigger person should not be confused with allowing, yourself to be abused. You know, that's not what being the bigger person is. It should not mean that you should be abused or disrespected or walked over. It is not about offering unlimited forgiveness or staying silent when being mistreated, but rather about taking control of your reactions. And honestly, people have said to me many times about, hey, Solid, you should be the bigger person, or show that you're better than them. And at times I don't want to be the bigger person because I don't want to forgive you. I don't want to um, allow you to disrespect me or walk over me. Because sometimes being the bigger person means that that is what you're allowing people to do. And sometimes, you just have to put your foot down. You have to put your foot down and just tell people no. Being the bigger person um, uh, does not mean that you allow people to cross a boundary. So you can still be the bigger person, but it doesn't mean that you have to allow people to cross that boundary. Sometimes you have to step back and step away. Sometimes you have to just, you know, tell people, you know, like, what what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? And there are people who, constantly push you, your family, your friends, um, your coworkers. They push you more than a stranger will. You know, does being the bigger person mean that you have to allow someone to cut you in line? Oh, well, I only have this one thing. Then you ask if you can get in front of me. Do you mind if I go in front of you? I only have one item. I only have two items. You just don't do it and just assume. To me, being the bigger person means that you're not allowing people to assume. I can still be that bigger person. I can still uh, be that bigger person. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, I had to check something. I can still be that bigger person who uh, can allow you to do something without you running all over me. That's possible. I can be that bigger person who has, that empathy. You know, um, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to let something go. I can be the bigger person who does not want to engage in petty drama. And I, for the most part, have pulled myself away from petty drama, where you know that if you have a conversation with someone, it's going to be the same conversation over and over and over. Or the people who you forgave once or twice or even three times, they're that repeat offender and they keep um, doing the same thing over and over. Being the bigger person doesn't mean that you apologize first. And a lot of times people apologize just to keep the peace. You don't have to, you don't know. Why are some people expected to always be the ones to keep the peace? Why? For some people, it's expected of them. You have some families where you have that person who, oh, you know how they are. And then you have the other person, could be you, could be somebody else, who they just like, well, just do it this one time. Just just do it this one time. You know how they are. And that one time becomes every time. And at one point you're like, what the hell? One day you wake up and you realize that people are walking all over you. Is that the bigger person that you want to be? I see, um, you know, people in courtrooms, families who, I guess they're being the bigger person because they can forgive you. They can forgive someone for killing a loved one, for um, paralyzing a loved one. They can forgive that school bully who consistently harasses and bullies them on the playground. But that person turns around and they do it again the next day. But me forgiving you and being the bigger person by forgiving you because you killed my loved one is not bringing my loved one back. But for some people, being the bigger person means, oh, aren't you a Christian? But you look at those people and it's like, where's your Christianity? Don't throw up being a Christian to me when I look at your actions and you're acting like the devil. So, you know, being the bigger person is also taking accountability, but not just for you, but for the other person too. Because usually when you're being the bigger person, you're allowing that person not to take accountability. You're allowing them to be that hypocrite and you're not calling them out. You're allowing them to be that bully and you're not calling them out. You're allowing them to just be a straight up asshole and you're not calling them out. You have people in families where, in some families, there's a favorite, then there's just you. Being the bigger person, does that mean that you're going to continue to allow that favoritism to go on unchecked? Or at some point, do you call it out? And for some people, you know, they're the bigger person for so long that when they finally do call it out, people look at you like, what? I mean, we're talking years. I was the bigger person, at least I feel I was the bigger person about 2 years ago on a trip that I took. And it still bothers me to this day. It bothers me that I never said what I should have said. It still bothers me to this day because I was being the bigger person because I was in someone else's house. And sometimes being the bigger person gets, confused with being respectful. But does that mean that you allow yourself to be disrespected because you're in someone else's territory? I don't know. Does it? You know, people see situations and see things differently. Everyone will see a situation from their own lens. You know, oh Lord, dread empath is here, y'all. Oh, but sometimes you just have to, just tell yourself, I'm not going to do this today. I'm not doing this right now. I'm not going. No. And then when you say no, people, like I said, they look at you like, oh, why are you so mean? Why are you so stuck up? You don't have any empathy. Don't you feel bad for them? Oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're a horrible person. You're a monster. No, I'm just not letting you take advantage of me. I can be the bigger person without allowing you to do that. I can be the bigger person without allowing you to treat me like crap. But like I said, I'm gonna go back to this other situation. 2 years ago, I was on a trip. I was staying at someone's house, and I always had a rule: never stay at anyone's house. Get a hotel, unless you're going home to stay with your mama and your daddy. Stay in a hotel. But this person, they wanted me to stay with them. I'm like, oh, okay. And I said beforehand, in front of other people, in like a group chat, if I was excited to go. If I do anything that you don't like, tell me. Well, apparently that whole trip was something that that person didn't like. And I was being the bigger person. I pretty much just kept my mouth shut because I was in their house. And like I said, to this day, it still bothers me. It still bothers me because they should have been called out. And it still bothers me because the last night they did something that I thought was just a downright betrayal. And I still haven't gotten over it. But it was never resolved. Sometimes being the bigger person means you have to walk away. And as I've gotten older, um, I've walked away from a lot of situations. I walked away from a lot of people. I've walked away from friendships because for me, that was me being the bigger person. Because if I stayed, I would say something that not that I would regret, but that that other person wouldn't like. You know, Dred says, I always stay at a hotel. I like my space, and people tend to act funny. I mean, people, people do. I mean, people have their routines. They have things that they like to do. You know, one thing that you may think is gross, they may think that is not. I've been in people's homes where I'm just visiting, for like an hour. Their kids are running around, jumping on the sofas and screaming and hollering and whatever. Me, it drove me crazy. Did I go back to that house? No. That's a choice that I have. And being the bigger person gives you choices. George says I'm retired. I have no filter anymore. But is it really about even having a filter, or is it just about just I cannot do this. Um, I don't know. Like I said at the very beginning, being the bigger person should not be confused with allowing oneself to be abused, disrespected, or walked over. It is not about offering unlimited forgiveness or staying quiet when being mistreated, but rather about taking control of your own actions. And eh, you you can't just um I'm sorry, I was looking something up here. Um I have noticed, and this is just me, that again, the people who continuously tell me the bigger person will sooner or later throw out that, aren't you a Christian? Aren't, 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 aren't you a Christian? Would you say that to someone who you know was an atheist? I'm just asking, you know, would you say that, what does Christianity have to do with you walking over me? What does Christianity have to do with me being the bigger person? What does Christianity have to do with allowing you to cross a boundary that you know you should not cross? And I have literally sat and watched and seen people. I have watched and I have seen people. I have sat in their homes. I have sat around them when they're with their families. I've sat around them, you know, in workspaces where they grit their teeth, or someone says, be the bigger person. I have someone in my orbit now who, this person constantly crosses boundaries. And people will say to me, you know how they are. When I first met this person, I was that bigger person who wouldn't say anything. But then, after about a month or two, I started opening my mouth. I started pushing back. And all of a sudden, I was being rude. All of a sudden, it was like, don't say that. How could you say that? You know how they are. You know how they are is not an excuse for them to not take accountability. And over time, that person stopped doing what they were doing to me, because they knew for me, they couldn't get away with it. But to this day, when I'm around this person, I see them doing it to other people. And then the focus switched. People would look at them and say, you know how they are. You know how they are. So let me ask this. Knowing that Trump is an asshole, should we just not say anything? Should we remain silent? Should we be the bigger citizen and not call him out on the ridiculous, stupid, dangerous things that he is doing? Should we? I mean, should we give him grace? Jared says people want you to be the bigger person so they don't have to respect your boundaries. I had to learn being the bigger person doesn't include being disrespected or taken advantage of. Absolutely. It does not. It does not. Sunny says taking control is hard for some people. And it is. For some people it really is hard. And I get it. I understand it. But for somebody who, I'm talking about myself, for somebody who had to grow a tough skin early, and even now people still do things that I'm, whatever. But at one point, you have to take control. You can still be a bigger person. You can still have em- empathy. You can still forgive. You can still care. But you don't have to let people walk over you. You don't have to let people cross that boundary. Because when you do, you're going to do it over and over and over. Just like that job that you go to every day. Once you start doing something as a favor, it becomes your job. I worked at a company where this was a telecommunications back in the 90s. My boss used to, in fact, three of my bosses that I had, but one in particular used to get pissed off every time 5 o'clock I was walking out the door. 4:55, I was packing up my stuff, changing my shoes, putting on my tennis shoes, and uh, I was out the door. I was on my way to the train station. Got called into the office, literally. Well, some of your other coworkers are still here. Maybe you can stay and help them out. My job was done. Why am I staying? Am I getting paid extra to help them? Because see, once you start doing stuff, it becomes expected. I may help you out on Monday. Don't expect me to help you out on Tuesday. You may ask me for a ride to work or a ride home. I may give you a ride to work, ride home, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Don't expect it Thursday and Friday. You hear about those people who my car is in the shop. Oh, why don't you just go ahead and be the bigger person? Just, you're driving right past their house. Why don't you just pick them up? No, because those are the people who don't give you gas money. Those are the people who eat in your car. They don't, take their McDonald's bag with them when they leave. They're the ones who, you start picking them up every day. You tell them to be ready at 7:30. They're walking out the house at 7:45. Then they're pissed off when they see you driving down the street. Well, couldn't you just been the bigger person, just waited for them? Couldn't you just been the bigger person and just take them home? They're having a hard time. Well, I know they took your lunch, but be the bigger person. You don't know what's going on in their life. Okay, they're taking my lunch every day. You don't know if I'm that may be the only meal that I eat all day because I don't have any money to go out and buy my lunch. See, being the bigger person has so many variables. So many variables. And you don't know what variable that is my situation. Just like I don't know the variable that is your situation. So, like I said, you can be the bigger person, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay silent. It doesn't mean that you have to um, allow people to um, put accountability that should be on them onto you, because by you being the bigger person, you're taking responsibility for someone else's actions, for someone else's faults. But see, when you're not that bigger person, people want you to just roll over and just take it. I'm not going to be that person. You know, I can't be that person, because when I am that person, it angers me. And I am still angry about this trip that I took 2 years ago. I am, but it just reinforced for me knowing what I will and will not do. Um, People will try to force you to be the bigger person in your generosity. If you're not generous or you don't do things for them, all of a sudden you're selfish. You're stingy. But when the tables are turned, all of a sudden, crickets. Oh well, I can't because well, you see, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. And over the years, you know, it does kind of harden you when people try to consistently take advantage of you. And for sometimes they're the same people who are those repeat offenders. They just keep coming back, coming back, coming back. And you're looking at them like, when are you going to get it? But they're still expecting you to be the bigger person to, forgive and forget. While the favorite child is off getting this and this, and you're getting scraps. You are supposed to be the bigger person, while your coworker is off, getting these accolades, whatever. And they're looking at you like, really? Seriously? When people blatantly see what someone else has done, and they know that that other person screwed up, they don't care. They literally don't care. They will, still tell you, well, just just let it slide. Just let it slide this one time. Then the next week, this person does the same thing, and people look at you, oh, just and all of a sudden they're expecting you to be the bigger person for everyone, for the entire department. for anything that goes on in your house, for anything that goes on around you because you become known as that person. So are you actually being the bigger person, or do you turn into a big, or are you a bigger person that turns into a doormat? And is there a difference between being a bigger person and being a doormat? Is there? Is there a difference? Because I've seen a lot of doormats, and I've seen a lot of doormats who have just had people literally wipe their feet all over them constantly, over and over and over. And depending upon who it is, sometimes I'll say something. Sometimes I'll keep my mouth shut. You know, just shake your head and you walk away. You know, but people, have these expectations, and their expectations want you to be that bigger person. They want you to take accountability. They want you to forgive. They want you to make the effort, but they never do. They want you to check all the boxes of righteousness while they're out there just gallivanting, doing whatever the hell they want. What do you do? I mean, seriously, what do you do? Do you continue to allow it, or do you continue to allow it, or um, do you just start pushing back and be the bigger person the way you want to be the bigger person, not the way people expect you to be? It's like I said, you can still have empathy and you can still forgive by being the bigger person, but that doesn't mean that you have to allow people to disrespect you and to walk all over you, because people will do it. People will do it. Sonny says this has happened to me. I mean, it's happened to a lot of us. It's happened to most people. And I wonder how many people are dealing with Trump right now, who just bite their tongue and they're the bigger person, and over and over and over again, and not saying anything when they're getting walked all over. Because, guys, I'm going to tell you all can think that I'm, you know, really reaching. But I think for some people that when you're the bigger person, um, it takes a toll on your mental health. If people, if you keep doing it over and over when people expect you to do it, it can take a toll on your mental health. It can take a toll on your self um, esteem. It can take it can take control or of your self confidence. I've seen it, and sometimes when those things are taken from you, it's hard to get it back. It's hard to get it back. And like I said, being the bigger person sometimes means you walk away. You walk away from those people who are making you feel like you have to be the bigger person, or you're constantly being around the, you have to you have to start hanging out with other people. Even if it means you have to be alone for a certain amount of time because you just have to get away from that negativity. And sometimes stepping away means you are alone, but it doesn't mean that you still cannot find other people and surround yourself with other people that are more positive in your life. Ones that every time you talk to them is not an argument, it's not a screaming match, it's not a put down, it's not you should be like your brother, you should be like your sister, you know, um, your father this, your mother this, well, your grandfather, you're not, it's not a comparison. Well, reason why you're never being promoted is because you're not doing this, this, and this, and this. And then you wake up one day and you look around and say, I haven't been promoted because I've been letting people walk over me and not speaking up. You cannot stay silent. You have to speak up. You have to let people know your boundaries. You have to let people know where you are. And yes, that does include your employers. I cannot tell you how many times from a company that I used to work with, I was known as a troublemaker because I always spoke up. I was not the quiet one, but I also didn't get walked over. But my integrity was intact. And there were times that I was the bigger person, but not the way they wanted me to be. Um, you know, um, you 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 cannot you cannot allow people to take advantage of you. You cannot allow people to disrespect you. And I'm talking about little things too, not necessarily, big things, but little things. Little things that people, oh, that's not such a big thing. Let it go. But those little things, they add up. Just like if you loan someone money, $10 here, $10 there, $10 here, $10 there. One day you look around, it's like you giving them like over $200. It adds up. It does matter. It does matter. You allow people to keep getting away with stuff, oh, it's just a little, they add up because then those people start coming back for bigger things because they know that they can, because they know you'll be the bigger person without boundaries. So I don't know, folks. But let's see. We have a small crowd today, but we will see. Let's open up these phone lines. Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. If anybody wants to call in, 877-777-2005 to tell your story, what you're talking about. No one will be able to see you, but they will be able to hear you if anybody wants to call in. But guys, the world is a complicated place, and we each have a place in this world. Some of us take up small spaces, some of us take up, big spaces, but we all have a space, and it should be protected. We are in control of our own spaces. We are in control of who we allow in to these spaces. And if we don't maintain those spaces and set those boundaries, and we stay silent, then when people expect us to be the bigger person, we're not being the bigger person, we're being the doormat. And like I said, sometimes being the bigger person is walking away. Sometimes being the bigger person is not apologizing first. We're making sure that that other person is held accountable. And if they don't want to be held accountable, if they don't want to apologize, you don't carry it on your shoulder. You just smile and walk away. Because see, you walk away from people enough, they either will recognize what they've done, or they've lost you as a friend or a son or a daughter, sometimes even a mother or a father. You have those parents who consistently bail their kids out. You have those siblings that consistently bail their siblings out because you're being the bigger person. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And one day you wake up and you realize that you're always doing it. Is that mean? Is that selfish? Are you being a monster? No, you're setting your boundaries because you also have a life. And you should be able to live it. So anyway, we're going to take this off, turn that down. So everyone, I am coming up to my hour. Um, My Turn to Talk is sponsored by Smooth California Skincare, smoothca.online. Smooth California, how skin should be. Please visit Smooth California, smoothca.online. Guys, it is the best skincare. It is the body butter, the face cream, the soaps. You guys, I guarantee you, you are not going to use anything else once you use this. So, and this is GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio, where every voice matters. So until next time, everyone, stay safe, and I will see you next week. I am Salibu Sister. This is My Turn to Talk. Peace.